And welcome in to another edition of A Closer Look. I am your host, Dwayne Nelson, and with me today is Sullivan County Mayor Richard Venable. And it is so good to have you here today on the set, talking about the county and what's going on.
Good to be back in these familiar surroundings, Dwayne, and it's good to visit with you. And appreciate your efforts to let people know what's going on. So we'll do our best today.
Now you've had, we were talking a little bit before we came on, but you've had a busy year. Sullivan County's had a busy year.
We have, and it's an accumulation of needs, not wants. And of course, I guess the overriding issue had been schools this year, and the study that the Department of Education conducted, consultant they hired, and then the decision making they went through. And that's probably a good place to start, because lots of folks don't know the structure of county government and how things work.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And of course, the school board is they have that responsibility to provide buildings and teachers and everything surrounding our education system. The county commission has the responsibility of funding that if we think it's warranted. Right. And that's what we went through. So the school board came over and make a recommendation, not exactly what the consultant said. They tailored that to our local needs and local knowledge, and the county commission approved it, and for the good of all the county, city of right. Bristol and Kingsport. So,
now, do you feel like where these schools are going to be located? I believe the middle school is going to be in Bristol. They're off Weaver Pike.
Right. It's about a half a mile from East High School, and so we're going to be able to share some facilities there and have some significant savings on building a middle school where we won't have to build the athletic plants and things of that nature. So the location of that one was decided by them, I think, because that was one of the major reasons.
Will that satisfy several, I guess that will move several elementary middle schools into that one building, or just middle schools?
Just middle schools, as I understand it, and it will take Holston Valley Middle School, Bluff City Middle School, and the middle school portion of Mary Hughes.
Mary Hughes, right.
And there's been concern about travel, but there always is, obviously. Right. I'm old enough to remember, and you are too, when we closed Linview and Ketra and made right. north, and we went through a lot of the same things, the condition of roads that the kids are on, but that was a school board decision, and obviously the county commission said, okay, we're going to go along with that. You're the ones that studied it, you're the ones that looked at it. We all looked at it, we went to some of the meetings, we all had our opinions, but ultimately it was the school board responsibility.
Right. Now the other school, which is the high school,
right.
that is planning on being built, I guess, behind the old Sam's area out there, right, at airport right. exit. That's going to be satisfying which high schools in the county?
Okay, that will combine north, south, and part of central. Part of central is located geographically where it's more convenient to them to attend East High School. This new school will have room for 18 to 1,900 students, and we hope that we will attract students to that new school from outside our school zone. So we hope we'll get Bristol and Kingsport specialty students there. So again, location was a huge thing that the school board looked at. I don't know anybody that got their own way on it, but I think one of the factors there, just as the growth in the eastern part of the county and the proximity to the east, was that eventually, as we progress, there's a possibility of having fewer school systems in Sullivan County, maybe right. two, maybe one. The location of both those schools lends itself, it keeps that option open to the people.
Now, you're probably planning on doing some infrastructure work around that new high school area, because obviously you want to make sure it's safe for the kids sure. getting to and from.
Right. We had requested a interstate connector grant from the state to build a portion of 357 from to access that school. We didn't get that grant, but we intend to have our highway department says they can build a nice entrance to that school off of 357 down by the Sam's Wholesale, and that's a pretty good street. And there's not a lot of traffic on it. We got Second Harvest Food Bank out there, and I think they get a tractor trailer a day. So The school bus traffic will be the majority there, but we'll have to build a quarter of a mile of road, maybe $300,000-$400,000, and Mr. Belgeri says he can do that in his budget.
Well, that sounds good.
And then the state has given us hope to extend 357 from the interstate all the way over to Fall Creek Road.
Right. Now that will relieve a lot of that area of congestion right there.
It will, and it'll be a good straight shot to that school.
Right.
And we're going to start, or the plans are, they'll start construction of that school and open it in 2020. So that's down the road a little bit, and we've got some time to do some things. But if you look at the infrastructure, Dwayne, and the routes that kids get to schools today, pretty much the same.
Right.
I remember being concerned about getting our Garden students to North, and on Gravelly Road, for example.
Right.
And so we have a history. We're fortunate. We have pretty good county roads.
Right.
I don't think we have a single mile unpaved of county roads. Now, some of them are smaller.
Right.
But we're facing the same situation we faced in 1980.
Right. Now, some of the schools like Central, and I know North, I guess, is going over to the city on the purchase agreement
Physical
there.
facility, yes.
Right.
Yes.
But like Central and South, what will those facilities be used for by the county in the future? Are you looking to sell those, or what?
Well, it'd be middle school. South is, of course, it's 37 years old. And the fact is, we were going to have to build a middle school in that area somewhere because Colonial Heights Middle School has not been maintained for years. And part of that is that they knew it was in the city, and the county school board didn't want to put money in schools that was in the city. So we were going to have a middle school out there, and so we were going to spend $25 million building a new middle school in the South Zone. I think the school board decided it made a lot more sense, instead of doing that and then sinking maybe $10, $15 million more in the South to make it a middle school. It was a simpler process for them. That was their suggestion. So it's been unpopular in many quarters, as these things are. And as I say, nobody hardly ever gets their own way in these.
No. Change sometimes is the hardest thing. It's our biggest enemy.
Yeah, I've talked to our director of schools, Evelyn Rafalowski, and one of the things I thought of is that we're putting three major varsity athletic programs together, from football to basketball to soccer to track. And I really want to make sure that kids have an opportunity to participate. And we've talked about that, and she's into that in depth, and to make sure that kids that want to participate have those opportunities. So, and we're real excited about it being a CTE school, the new high school. That's how I think we'll draw additional students from the cities. We'll have at least 16 out of the 18 CTE clusters, I believe, and kids will graduate from high school, or can graduate from high school, with a certificate that enables them to go out and get a job.
And that's and in this day and time, that's what you need. You really do.
Well, we finally recognized that everybody doesn't need to go 4-year university or college.
Right.
We finally recognized that, and we're putting our money where our mouth is.
Right. And one of the big things that shocked me was when you think of Sullivan County, you think of Bristol, Kingsport, Bluff City, but 156,000 people in the county. That is a lot of people.
It is, and you know, our population growth has trailed the state, let's say, and maybe trailed the region a bit. Just in using round numbers, we have about 80,000 people that live in the municipalities of Bluff City, Bristol, and Kingsport, and then 80,000 that live in the rural area of the county. We call it the rural area of the county. It really isn't rural, because we've got some densely populated places that need urban services. But you know, especially when we come to look at tax structures and cost structures, I had occasion to look at the property tax reappraisal recently, and Sullivan County and Kingsport, I believe, had $1.7 billion in value inside the city limits, which is huge, and a large part of that is Eastman, but still huge. And I think people would be surprised to know that outside the city limits of Kingsport and Bristol, we have about $1.2 billion. And people say, well, where did that come from? And I said, well, it comes from those bedroom communities that are built outside the cities. Piney Flats Industrial Park, the cooperative that started in 1970, we probably have $500 million in investment over there, 2,500 jobs. And people in this end of the county aren't as familiar with that.
They don't, because they don't think about it.
Right.
But it's a large park. It has a lot of occupants, and especially, you've got Bell Helicopter over there and a lot of other big units over there. So the county, another thing that surprised me was the 430 square miles. Now, you've got a police force or a sheriff's office that has to cover 430 square miles.
Right.
And that's a lot with a small amount of employees to do that, but you do it. You get the job done.
Well, we just went through a review when the sheriff filed the lawsuit against the mayor of the county, and his right to do so, and it gave me an opportunity to really become familiar with what they do. And you mentioned the square miles. It is amazing. Of course, we've had some annexation, but the sheriff is responsible for the whole county.
Right.
Even though we got the Kingsport Police Department of Bristol, he has responsibilities that he must do. So that's one part of his job is a patrol and law enforcement. The other part of his job is corrections.
Right.
And that brings us to one of the bigger subjects that we're dealing with this year, which is the jail.
And what we're going to do, we're going to talk about that in our next segment.
Great.
But I appreciate having you here, Richard Venable, the county mayor for Sullivan County. We'll be back with more on A Closer Look.